deadlines, that sort of thing, a little bit about our other services, and then open it up for question and answer, which is probably the most important part. So we'll make the presentation part short. While we're waiting, I'd like to just introduce the Freshwater Future staff that are on, in case you don't know any of us. I'm Jill Ryan. I'm the executive director. Lori Breitner is our grants administrator. So if you have a grant, get a grant, you'll be, or apply for a grant, you'll be talking to Lori most likely. Ann Bauman is our associate director, and she helps with all kinds of questions, and so she's often available to help people. And then Alexis Smith is the Freshwater box down there, and she is our tech guru. So she's the one making sure all of this is working today. So it's a pleasure to have everybody on. And I think it's 4 after, so we'll just jump right in and hope we can get a few more people on as well. So this webinar is going to be about our project grants program. We have at the moment 5 different grants programs. Some of them are very specific, but this is our traditional grants program that is more general, and it's designed to help you with your local work. The primary focus, though, is advocacy. And don't get nervous about that word. What that means is, in our opinion, is that you're trying to create permanent change. So that might be working with the municipality to change the way they are doing management procedures. It might be protecting a wetland by bringing a contested case. It could be a lawsuit against a government entity. It can be a study to see if land needs to be protected for protected species. So anything that kind of creates a way for permanent change. The other thing we're working a lot on, and it's included in this program, is drinking water issues. So if you are trying to protect source waters, if you're dealing with a lead problem, if you have PFAS nearby, all of those things that impact drinking water are also included in this program. So what don't we fund? What we don't fund is education without advocacy. So if you have a project that is primarily based on education and it doesn't have that advocacy component, that's not an area for us, because we think that's important work, but our specific focus is advocacy, because that's the hardest funding to get generally. We can pay for legal costs, we can pay for expert costs, we can pay for all those sorts of things. What we do ask of applicants is that applicant organizations are current members. For groups with an annual budget under 200,000, membership is $100. If that's a hardship, just call us and we'll work something out. We don't want it to be a barrier, but because we spend a lot of time going out and raising the funds to give away, we do ask for that initial membership. I also want to let you know there are other things, other services we have at Freshwater Future, and some of them are for members only. And so that $100 also allows you to access reduced fees for consulting with our staff on a host of topics, from strategic planning to strategy planning to fundraising, all sorts of things. We also have a pretty broad network. We have about 2,000 organizations we work with across the region. So if you have a question or you want help with something and you want to send a request out to our network, if you're a member, you can do that up to twice a year. So that's another benefit. And then I just want to mention that we do have something that we coordinate called the Great Lakes Network. And that is not owned by us. It's not owned by anyone. It's a collaborative. We provide some tools in terms of electronic tools and things to get people together. It has bi-monthly meetings. And the structure of that is such that any group, once they join, can create a subnetwork focused on a particular issue. So we have subnetworks around things like PFAS, lead issues. I think we have 13 subnetworks right now. So you're also welcome to join that network, ask for help, have others join in your work, or even create a subnetwork. So those are some of the other services that you can access through Freshwater Future. For this grant period, the deadline is March 31st. The application is on our website, which you've probably seen because that's how you got here. If you have questions, we're happy to talk through your project ideas. So if you want to talk something through, give Lori a call. And she's happy to have an initial conversation. She might then forward you on to somebody else that has a bit more different expertise in terms of your particular project. But we're happy to talk through those. We really want to make sure your time is valued. And so we're not asking you to fill out applications if it's likely not a good fit. So please feel free to call on us for that. This is basically a one-year grant program. You can ask for longer, but generally it's a one-year program. And we do require a written and financial reports at the end of that period, plus a month. So we try to make those relatively easy as well. And one thing we're always looking for is some feedback. So if there are things in this program that you think could be easier, that could be more helpful to you, please let us know that as well, because we want to make sure that these programs are helping and not taking up people's time. So with that, I'll ask Anne and Lori, any additional thoughts before we move to Q&A? You're muted, Anne.
See, I got my video off anyways. I thought that was pretty good. I would just add that you can go to our website too and look at some of the more recent grants that we have funded. So you can take a look at what some of those are. That can be helpful at times to get a feel, but also just don't hesitate to reach out.
I guess the other thing I would say is for those who are new to grant writing, part of our process here is to help you grow into that. And so if we can be helpful in the process to help you understand how that works, how it works with larger funders like foundations, we're happy to have those conversations too. This should be a helpful process. So if you want to have those conversations, just give Lori a call and we'll set something up with you.
Absolutely.
All right. So I'm going to open it up. That's all I wanted to go over in terms of the overview. And we're happy to take questions. Just remember to unmute and we'll try to remind you if we see that you're talking. Howard, sure.
Yeah, thanks. Just could you comment a little bit about the size of your funding budget, in particular where the money comes from, what organizations are supporting you?
Sure. Our budget is just north of $1 million a year at the moment. We're funded by a lot of individuals, small donors up to large donors, major donors. And then we also do fee for service. So we provide consulting and other services, reports, other things that are fee for service, and then finally a lot of grant sources, which include funders like Mott, Joyce Foundation, McDougall, Herb. So we have quite a few foundations that have funded us for a number of years.
Okay, thank you very much.
Sure.
I've got a couple questions that are more of a logistic or technical question. I might of just how to lay out my application. So it might be more prudent if I call Lori and deal with it directly than waste everybody else's time.
Sure, and I would just generally say, Howard, that we've put the application in a Word document, and really, if you just answer the questions, you just can leave it right there and just fill your text in after each question. It's usually the easiest way. If you have something specific about you want to send extra materials or put photos in, then yeah, we're happy to talk about that as well. Other questions? Annabelle.
Unmute. As you know, I'm in Canada, and with some of the work that we're doing, which is emanating from a new online initiative that we're doing for kids, which is education, and will, we hope, lead to advocacy on the part of kids. But we obviously reach into the United States as well as in Canada. And I was wondering, can Freshwater Future help us identify some foundations that might be might be interested in what we're doing? And maybe you can let me know too, is whether American foundations can help Canadian initiatives, or do we have to limit the foundations that we talk to Canada?
Sure, good questions. Let me start with the last one, and then I'll turn it over to Anne about the funders. So you can certainly get money from U.S. foundations and individuals in any place you can get it. It's different going the other way. It's much harder to move funds from Canada to the US, but from the US to Canada, it's perfectly fine. So we've been funding in Canada for over 25 years, and there are some conditions about that. Money can't flow back to the US, interestingly. So if we give money to Canada, we have to make sure none of it comes back. And the limitations on advocacy and the way we describe advocacy and political activity is different in the two countries. So those are things to be aware of, but it's certainly possible. Many US foundations are leery of going out if that's not a regular thing they do. But Anne, you want to talk a little bit about the foundation side?
Sure, happy to answer that question. So Annabelle, we can help you identify some potential sources, and we consider that part of our consulting services. So as a member, you get 1 hour of free consulting from Freshwater Future. So if you want to use that for a little bit of staff time to help us see if we can come up with some potential funding sources. We have a subscription to GrantStation, as well as just a lot of contacts. So we're happy to do that for you. If you want additional help beyond that, then we can, talk about other ways we can be of service to help you put together some kind of fundraising plan or find additional ways to generate revenue for your projects.
Good, thank you very much.
So obviously the
So
person
we would
talk
talk
to
to you, Anne, about that directly?
Yes. Yep. You can just contact me. I'm happy to help with that.
Great. Thank you.
Good, thanks.
I
Any
go
other
back
questions?
on mute now.
Other questions?
Good morning.
Hi, Dale.
Hi, good morning. it's good to see Jill and Lori and Ann. We've worked together with you folks for a little while. I serve as president of the Coalition to Save the Menominee River. We are in strict opposition to a Canadian proposed sulfide mine 150 feet from the Menominee River. And what we have faced, and I'm sure that every nonprofit organization on this call has experienced the same, that through the COVID, we made a lot of our fundraising through events, all the way from Madison, Wisconsin to Door County and in the Michigan area. But of course, that has basically dried up. And so we're trying to transition our marketing into virtual, similar to this call. And of course, we face obstacles in getting our website. We had to change website administrators because the first one, or what we wanted to do, didn't feel like she was capable. So we went with another administrator, and that was a fiasco. But nevertheless, we got it done, and we're working through it. The issue that we look at is that, I don't know about the rest of you, but our demographic is probably middle-aged to an older demographic. And we're having difficulty providing enough information to our existing volunteers, to promote our cause. So if anybody has any ideas on how to get to these people, they're very dedicated, and I know that we still have them, but I would like a better communication vehicle to get to these folks. So that's one of our challenges, and we're in the midst of it, right now, making drastic changes on our website, and we're putting all of our merchandise programs going on the website, which we have all done in person before. So if anyone has any ideas, I'm all ears over here on the river.
Well, Dale, it's funny you should mention that. I didn't bring this up because we haven't released this RFP yet, but we will have a communications RFP coming out within the next month. And that is actually targeted to help with exactly some of what you're saying. And it will be working in a cohort situation where we'll have multiple grantees that meet and have assistance from an expert directly on those issues. So that's another piece, at least, is that you may want to consider applying for that grant program as well. It comes with a small monetary award, but then most of the award is to help bring people to new levels in their communications.
Right.
So absolutely.
Sign me up, Jill.
Okay. Gotcha.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Dale. I think Donna might have something. Donna, were you trying to unmute? I couldn't tell.
Oh, yeah. No, I was just kind of listening in, but our organization kind of raised with a lot of other issues that, I've heard. We started out as a committee, and now we're looking to move into a more organized structure because we are looking at advocacy from a more aggressive point, and we don't really, we still want to be in sync with the organization that has been our sponsor as well. But it's clear that a lot of the residents in our community are concerned with a lot of decisions and a lot of regulations that's being handed down. And so we're looking to kind of create a more organizational structure, become our own 401c3. And we think that would allow more freedom as far as the voices that are coming out of our community.
That's great. And so that's another program we do offer, is our consulting program. can help you set up your structure, help you put in your nonprofit corporation paperwork, as well as if you go for that 501c3, we can help with that and help get everybody kind of up to speed on policies, procedures, how you operate as a new entity. So that's great to hear. And all of these programs, I should say, you can apply for all of them. So you're not limited to one type of grant.
Okay. Thank you.
That's great. Thank you. Any other questions?
I think you covered this, and maybe I wasn't listening carefully enough because I kind of know the program. But if you aren't a 501c3, you can still apply for these grants, but you do need to have a nonprofit or Canadian charity as a sponsor.
Yes, great point. I did not mention that, Ann. All right. There are some people on that I've never met before. I'm glad I've gotten to see Brendan, because he first came on as a Hexagenia picture, and that was interesting. So now we put a face there. I don't think I know Bob or Daniela or Sarah, or Sadie. So that's a lot of new folks. And if you have any questions about our services at all, we're happy to answer.
Thank you. This is Bob. I'm actually the executive director of the Michigan Hydro, which is actually 4 501c3 organizations: MUCC, Michigan Council of Trout Unlimited, Anglers of the Au Sable, and the Great Lakes Federation of Fly Fishers International. We're interested in all things related to hydro relicensing and implementation of hydro licenses on all the Great Lakes tributaries in the state, because that's where most of the hydro dams are. A question I have, you made reference to the grant application being in a Word document format.
Yes,
Is that on the website?
it is. And could somebody put that link in the chat box for us while we're on? We'll put that up on in the chat box, so it'll take you right to it.
Great, thank you very much.
Sure, sure.
Jill, this is Sarah Bennett. I'm in Erie, Pennsylvania, with Penn Future, which is a statewide environmental organization. I do have we did receive the communications grant. So Lori, I know we emailed last week, so space with the name. But I did want to ask about lobbying with this grant. So we're talking about advocacy, talking about real change. Do the same rules for lobbying apply to these grants and all Freshwater Future grants that were discussed on that previous webinar?
Yes, excellent question, Sarah. Thank you for mentioning it. Because of the source of funds for our grants, we cannot allow lobbying with these dollars. There are some times when we make grants with our own internal operating dollars, and those can be used for lobbying. But for these major grant programs, unfortunately, we can't do lobbying. It's a great question.
Can you go into a little bit more? I'm actually pretty new to environmental advocacy myself, but can you go into a little bit more about what you consider lobbying, just to flesh that out?
Yes. So for those that are in the grants, the communication grants program, you will get a whole webinar on that that's really specific to communications. But in addition, what I would say, especially for this program, is that when we're looking at lobbying, we're looking at it's essentially 3 parts. There's a bill, you have an opinion on the bill, and you ask either the public or a legislator or a decision maker to act in a certain way on that bill. So generally, if you don't have all of those things, you're okay. We're not going to count that as lobbying in terms of these dollars. A little bit different with communications because there's a little bit of pre-lobbying that we have to be careful with. But those are the basics to make sure that with these dollars, you're not doing those activities, but you can do a lot of other things that eventually you may pay for with different dollars. That's lobbying. So
if we did do a project with these funds and then decided to move into lobbying, we could, and had other funds that could support that, even if it's related to the project. Is that okay, as long as we can very clearly show that we have these other funds that are supporting that?
yes, as long as what you show us is that you did no lobbying with it. That's good. Yep. Good question. Any other questions? All right.
Actually, I have a little bit of a question.
Oh, yes, Brandon.
So we're, Daniela, Sadie, and I are all part of the same organization, ULinks, and we're located in Central Ontario, Canada. And so we're looking for funding to continue a program that's more focused on research. So we're looking at the long-term health of benthic macroinvertebrate communities, hence my profile picture, in shield lakes in Central Ontario. Could you just define a little bit more what you mean by advocacy? Because I think we can probably fit that in, because that's kind of where we want this program to go with, like, citizen science and stuff. But just having more of a clear definition would probably help us out a little bit.
Sure. So basically what we say in our RFP is we want to see sustainable change. And in practice, when we've had groups working on research, that research then leads to asking for some or doing some different management, different requests for how things are managed, really looking at what do we need to change based on this research. So that would be the key, is will the research lead to some changes in how what you're finding is impacting that resource.
Okay, thank you. That helps a lot.
Okay, great, good. Any other questions or any other thoughts from Anne or Lori? Daniela, yes.
Yeah, am I unmuted? Yes. So you just about this ability for Canadian organizations to access American or US foundation money. That's something I don't think I've been aware of until now. So it's very exciting for me as the admin and logistics coordinator of this place. So do you happen to, do any of you happen to know whether, I imagine we would have to be connected with a charitable not-for-profit or have a charitable not-for-profit sponsor or something for applying for those kinds of things.
You mean one in the US?
Yeah.
No.
Okay, because we're part of, we're not-for-profit organization, but we're part of a community co-op.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, so we're not like ourselves incorporated as a not-for-profit charity.
Oh, I see.
But we do have an arm that we can sort of do that through. So I was just wondering. Yeah.
Yeah, as long as you have a Canadian charity that will be the applicant, that's what they're going to be looking for.
Can universities be an applicant? Because our main partner is Trent University.
For sure, with big foundations, they would love that.
Yeah. Okay.
In many cases, yes. With us, we can do that as long as we know the work is actually on the ground.
Yeah, yeah. We're the ones doing the work on the ground. It's just they actually are our main consistent funder is Trent University to do the community-based stuff. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And their development office actually does look for funding for us. So that's why I was wondering.
Great. Yeah, absolutely. You know, it's certainly not every American foundation that is going to fund Canadian organizations, but there certainly are some. And it's because of the size of our foundations, it's usually worth looking at.
Yeah. Okay, great. Thank you.
Uh-huh. Sadie, it's great to see you. Do you have a question or a comment?
Sorry, it's a little bit loud here, so I didn't want to unmute myself, but I don't have any questions right now. I am very new to the grant writing process, so I'm just listening in and trying to pick up as much as I can. So thank you.
Absolutely. Glad you were able to be on.
We've got Sadie in a really wonderful grant writing workshop right now as a professional development for her. So
Wonderful, wonderful. Oh, that's great. All right. And if you're muted.
Jeez. See, I'll be the worst example of this today. So Sarah wants to know if there's a plastic subcategory in the Great Lakes Network. I can't remember. Is there a new group, new sub network working on
There
that?
is currently
Okay.
a plastic subcategory, although I know there have been discussions around that topic lately. So it could be that one is forming. These networks come in, they get formed based on current needs, and they'll stay around as long as they're needed, and then they tend to drop off. So it is possible. Our colleague Christy Meyer is the administrator of the Great Lakes Network. So her email would just be Christy@freshwaterfuture.org, Kristy, and I'm sure she'd be happy to answer that question with more knowledge than I have. I also should just say, Sarah, that I'm now located in Jamestown, New York. So if you're in Erie, we're a stone's throw away, which is great. All right. Well, if there aren't any other questions, Dale, did you have something?
I did. And it's just, I just want a clarification, Jill. You folks know that we've been involved in legal litigation with the state of Michigan on wetlands permitting.
Yes, and we're glad you have been.
Well, and we're pleased that the administrative law judge ruled to deny the wetlands permit to this sulfide mining company. However, it's going into tribunal review March 3rd.
Okay.
And of course, you know, our entire organization are volunteers. Nobody gets paid. And the bulk of our monies go to pay our legal defense team, which they do a marvelous job. But nevertheless, but did I understand you correctly that that the grant program this year does have provisions to allow for legal and for legal counsel?
Oh, yes. Yes, we always do in this grant program. Yes.
Okay.
You can, now, sometimes what we'll say to somebody, if it looks like they're facing a very large legal battle, is, would you prefer to use some of our funds for the legal side and some of our funds for fundraising? Because obviously our funds are pretty small.
Yeah.
And so sometimes we'll do that, where you put a portion of it toward the actual legal bill, but then use some for fundraising as well. So yes, we want to be supporting those activities for sure.
Okay, and Mr. Stuber, I have not had the opportunity to meet you, sir, but as you represent fishermen, that is a large portion of our concern on the Menominee River, being a world-class walleye and smallmouth bass fishery, and also one of the larger breeding grounds for lake sturgeon. So that's, we're trying to protect those as well for Michigan and Wisconsin fishermen, being a boundary water river. So
thank you. Thank you. We are actually very familiar with the Menominee system, as we're involved in we're one of the parties to the Wilderness Shore Settlement Agreement for the relicensing of Wisconsin Electric's 8 hydro projects there. We also sit in on for parties to a settlement for the Menominee and Park Mill dams for the fish passage. So we're very interested in it. And I know especially MUCC is very interested in work that you folks are doing. Recently sat in on some of the Michigan Dam Safety Task Force meetings, and I believe I saw you there. And you guys have a great cause up there. And thanks for all the advocacy that you do.
Well, thank you for your work. It's a pleasure to meet you.
Thank you.
It's great. It's great to hear about all these things. I want to check in with Vicki because I see you turned your camera on. So did you have anything?
I did actually. So I work for the Friends of Rhinestone Woods in Buffalo, New York.
Oh,
And I was just wondering, so I work for the Friends group, but we work with the Department of Environmental Conservation. It's a DEC site. Does that matter? Will that make a difference or?
No, it won't make a difference. We just want to, you will need to, are you a C3? Is the Friends group a C3?
Yes.
Yeah, so that's fine. We love to partner with government when it's appropriate. That's great. Well, it's great to meet you, Vicki. I'm glad you're on, and
Thank you.
I'm just a stone's throw from you too, down in Jamestown.
Yep. Go Bills.
That's right. Yes, great to meet you. All right. Anything else?
I guess my only last thought is that I do think working with Freshwater Future, you get a chance to meet a lot of other kindred spirits. So, you know, by being a member, you'll get notified of webinars and other opportunities to engage with like-minded folks, learn from each other. There's a lot of peer learning that happens amongst our group. So it was great to hear everyone today, and hope that you'll be applying.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Look forward to hearing from you.
And I guess the last thing I would say, and is a big, huge thank you for taking the time to be on today. I hope we see some applications from you, and look forward to having those conversations. And if you are in the midst of a battle, I know Dale has let us know when things have happened on the Menominee, and you want to get that word out. We have a quarterly newsletter and a weekly email blast, and we're happy to have those stories. So if you have anything to share, we're really interested in that as well.
Good point. Yeah.
So thank you, and have a wonderful day. I hope the sun is shining everywhere like it is here.
Thank you very much for hosting this.
Yes, thank you very much.
Absolutely. Take care, everyone.
Take care.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye-bye. Thanks.
Oh.